Another day, another story. The idea that Polynesian voyagers may have reached the Americas before Columbus is based on a combination of historical evidence, oral traditions, cultural similarities, and theoretical possibilities.
Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel.
While there is no definitive proof of such contact, proponents of this theory suggest that Polynesian navigators, renowned for their seafaring skills, could have potentially crossed the vast Pacific Ocean and encountered parts of the Americas. Here is an overview of the key points and evidence often discussed in relation to this hypothesis. Cultural similarities and oral traditions. Some researchers point to shared cultural elements and linguistic similarities between Polynesian and Native American cultures as possible indicators of contact. Additionally, both cultures have myths and stories that involve oceanic voyages. Sweet potato distribution. The presence of the sweet potato, Ipomoea batatas, in Polynesia before Columbus's arrival is often cited as a piece of evidence. The sweet potato is native to the Americas, and its presence in Polynesia has been suggested as a potential result of pre-Columbian contact. However, the exact mechanisms of how the sweet potato could have reached Polynesia are still debated. Some propose that it could have been carried by Polynesian voyagers who reached the Americas, or that it might have been transported by natural means such as ocean currents or migrating birds. Experimental voyages and navigational techniques. The Polynesian Voyaging Society has conducted experimental voyages using traditional Polynesian navigation techniques. These modern voyages, such as the Hokulea's journey, have demonstrated the navigational prowess of Polynesian sailors and their ability to traverse vast distances using stars, currents, and other natural cues. While these experiments highlight the potential feasibility of long-distance oceanic travel, they do not definitively prove that such voyages occurred before Columbus. Archaeological evidence. Some proponents of pre-Columbian contact suggest that certain artifacts, structures, or inscriptions found in the Americas may be linked to Polynesian influence. However, these claims often lack robust archaeological support and are subject to skepticism within the scientific community. It's important to note that while these points contribute to the hypothesis of pre-Columbian Polynesian contact with the Americas, the mainstream consensus among historians and scholars remains cautious. The evidence is often circumstantial and subject to multiple interpretations. In summary, the idea that Polynesian voyagers reached the Americas before Columbus is a topic that continues to intrigue researchers and spark debate. While there are intriguing pieces of evidence and theories, conclusive proof of pre-Columbian Polynesian contact with the Americas remains elusive, and the topic remains an area of ongoing research and exploration. Evidence that Polynesian sailors reached Americas. Most experts now believe the Polynesians crossed the entire Pacific to mainland South America, with Marzan saying it happened, without question. Stanford University biologist Peter Vitosik has similarly told History that, "We're absolutely sure," putting the odds of a South American landfall in the 99.9999% range. For one thing, experts note that Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui, lies only about 2,200 miles off the South American coast, and that Polynesian voyagers, capable of locating a speck of rock in the vast Pacific, could hardly have missed a giant continent. Why would they have stopped? Kahn says, they would have kept going until they couldn't find any more. Genetic evidence backs up this assertion. A 2020 study found that Polynesians from multiple islands carry a small amount of DNA from indigenous South Americans, and that the moment of contact likely came some 800 years ago. Not long after the Vikings, the best European sailors of their era, made landfall on the Atlantic coast of the Americas. Archaeologists have likewise found the remains of bottle gourds and sweet potatoes, both South American plants, at pre-Columbian Polynesian sites. Some scientists speculate that the sweet potato could have dispersed naturally across the Pacific, but most agree that the Polynesians must have brought it back with them. Try to take a sweet potato tuber and float it, Kirk says. I guarantee it won't float very long. It will sink to the bottom of the ocean. Poultry bones from Chile appear to show that Polynesians introduced chickens to South America prior to the arrival of Columbus, though some scientists have disputed these findings. Meanwhile, other researchers analyzing skulls on a Chilean island found them to be very Polynesian in shape and form. Less evidence ties the Polynesians to North America. Even so, some experts believe they landed there as well, pointing out, among other things, that the sewn plank canoes used by the Chumash tribe of Southern California resembled Polynesian vessels. What happened to Polynesians in Americas? No Polynesian settlement has ever been unearthed in the Americas. It therefore remains unclear what happened upon arrival, particularly since, unlike the Pacific Islands, these landmasses were already populated. Perhaps, Kahn says, they got up and left and went back. When Captain James Cook explored the Pacific in the late 1760s and 1770s, thus ushering in a wave of Western imperialism, he recognized the Polynesians' exemplary sailing skills. It is extraordinary that the same nation should have spread themselves over all the isles in this vast ocean, from New Zealand to Easter Island, which is almost a fourth part of the circumference of the globe, he wrote. Eventually, however, as they colonized the islands and suppressed native languages and cultures, Western powers began to downplay Polynesian achievements, according to Marzan, who says they assumed that the people of the Pacific were less than. Some falsely claimed, for instance, that Polynesian sailors had merely drifted along with the winds and currents. It didn't help that, at the time of European contact, many Pacific Islanders no longer used large, ocean-going canoes. Some, like those on Easter Island, had already chopped down all the tall trees needed to produce them. Worst of all, European diseases decimated the Polynesian population. It was this massive, devastating loss, Kirk says. And when you have that, your society really falls apart. Before long, most remaining Polynesians began sailing with Western techniques. More recently, though, the old traditions have been revived, starting around 1976, when the Polynesian Voyaging Society sailed, without instruments, from Hawaii to Tahiti. They have since embarked on numerous other expeditions, including a worldwide voyage from 2013 to 2017. The Polynesian Voyaging Society has really inspired many cultures across the Pacific to reconnect with their traditional practices, Marzan says. Once again, double-hulled canoes are plying the ocean. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.